Thursday, August 7th. Stalin takes overall command of all the armed forces. The SS commandant and police chief in Army Group Center, Erich von dem Bach-Zalewski, sends Heinrich Himmler a telegram informing him that his units have carried out more than 30,000 executions since the start of the invasion. The message is sent using the Enigma code and is deciphered by the British Secret Services. Churchill is horrified by the information. Thousands of Russian prisoners begin to arrive at Nazi concentration camps. The American Secretary of State, Cordell Hull, warns Japan that any action taken against Thailand will be considered a threat to United States and British interests in the region. The American ambassador in Tokyo, Joseph C. Grew, meets with Admiral Teijiro Yoyoda, the foreign minister, and warns him that America will not remain passive if Japan exceeds the limits of the agreement signed with Vichy France regarding Indochina. Friday, August 8th. In the Soviet Union, Army Group South, supported by Romanian troops, attempts an assault on the city of Odessa. Stalin orders his forces to hold their ground at all costs. In Uman, the fighting comes to an end while the 6th Army prepares to attack Kiev. In Vitebsk, Belarus, Soviet partisans are carrying out a large number of attacks on the rear guard of the German army. The partisans act in small groups and move very quickly, making it extremely difficult to eliminate them. The Wehrmacht commanders in the area report to the OKH. Troops from Army Group North, under von Lieb, launch a major offensive in the area of the river Luga. They take Wesenberg, Rakvere, in Estonia, and advance towards the coast of the Gulf of Finland. Radio Moscow announces the loss of 5,000 tanks and 4,000 aircraft. The RAF bombs the German cities of Essen, Dortmund, and Hamm, as well as airfields in Denmark and northern France. In the Far East, the Japanese authorities celebrate the launching of the aircraft carrier Shokaku. The government drafts all students over 16 years of age, and the foreign minister, Teijiro Toyoda, publicly responds to American pressure by declaring that Japan will continue to wage its struggle against the Chongqing regime, despite the aid given by the United States and Great Britain to the Chinese army. Saturday, August 9th. In the Soviet Union, Finnish troops continue to advance across the Karelian Isthmus. 100 kilometers south of Smolensk, Army Group Center fights the Battle of Gomel, which will last for 2 weeks. The Germans occupy the railway station at Chernigov and take more than 38,000 prisoners in the area of Roslaw. Army Group South cuts the railway line linking Kiev with Odessa east of Uman. British planes attack the German naval base at Kiel and the shipyards of Hamburg. The Luftwaffe bombs the airfields of eastern and southern England. The United States government brings steel production under state control. Churchill and Roosevelt arrive at Placentia Bay on the southeast coast of Newfoundland, Canada. The British Prime Minister arrives on board the battleship Prince of Wales with the Chief of the Imperial General Staff, the First Sea Lord, and Harry Hopkins, Roosevelt's diplomatic advisor, who joined Churchill after his trip to Moscow. The American leader and his aides arrive on the cruiser Augusta. Without losing time, Churchill joins Roosevelt on the American ship. It is their first face-to-face meeting. In the Middle East, General Henry Dance, the High Commissar of the Vichy government in the Levant, and 35 officers from his general staff are arrested and put in prison by the British forces. Sunday, August 10th. After a religious service, Roosevelt and Churchill begin their conference on board the cruiser Prince of Wales in the waters off Newfoundland. The two leaders decide to provide immediate aid to Stalin and secretly agree that the Americans will defend all British possessions and that their ships will patrol the North Atlantic to protect convoys heading towards the United Kingdom. They also discuss the situation in the Middle East, and Roosevelt warns that if Japan begins another invasion in the Pacific, it will trigger the immediate entry of the United States in the war. In China, the city of Chongqing is heavily bombed by Japanese planes. In Russia, von Rundstedt, commanding Army Group South, gives his officers three key objectives: to destroy the troops fleeing from Uman, to occupy the west bank of the river Dniester, and to secure their northern flank. In the face of German pressure, Stavka orders Bundeni and his southwestern front troops to withdraw from the river Dnieper and redeploy to Odessa. In the north, the forces of the Third Reich advance upon Leningrad. Some of the Spanish volunteers of the Blue Division join his army group after swearing an oath of loyalty to Hitler. Monday, August 11th. On the Russian front, Soviet forces launch a major offensive against Army Group Center in the area of Yelnya. The Russian Air Force carries out its first bombing against Berlin. At a meeting of military commanders at Hitler's headquarters in Rostenburg, Poland, General Franz Halder, Chief of Army General Staff, tells his Commander-in-Chief, Walter von Brauchitsch, "We have underestimated the capacity of the enemy. They have an inexhaustible number of soldiers. If we destroy a dozen of their divisions, they rapidly deploy another dozen along the vast front." For his part, Brauchitsch complains of the constant errors of the intelligence services, which have been incapable of estimating the real capacity of the Red Army. In Placentia Bay, Winston Churchill, in his first interview with an American newspaper, says that everything possible must be done to win the war, which threatens to reduce the world to a heap of rubble or a prison house. Britain had an opportunity to win the war before it began, he says. But now, there is no solution other than to fight on till the end and to prepare for what is to come. The Japanese government decrees the establishment of a war economy. Tuesday, August 12th. In Placentia Bay, Churchill and Roosevelt signed the Atlantic Charter, laying out the principles on which the two countries will cooperate. Liberty, peace, and security are promised for all humanity after the defeat of Nazi Germany. At his headquarters in Rostenburg, Hitler supplements Directive 34 with the main objectives for Army Group South: the occupation of the Crimea, the industrial area of Kharkov, and the coal mines of the Donetsk Basin. After this, an attack on the other side of the Strait of Kerch will be considered, targeting Batum. Army Group Center is to continue its advance towards Moscow once the threats on its northern and southern flanks are eliminated. In the north, General Nikolai Vatutin launches a counterattack against the armored columns of General Erich von Manstein south of Lake Ilmen, near Novgorod. Taken by surprise, von Manstein withdraws more than 50 kilometers and the bulk of the German army is forced to regroup. The RAF bombs Berlin and Cologne. In London, a commercial treaty is signed between the British and the Russians. In North Africa, in Libya, some of the Australian troops defending Tobruk are relieved by Polish forces.